Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, there was a time and place where Peter Dinklage was one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood after his Game of Thrones hit series. It was one of those things like everybody was going, I drink and I know things. Like it was a fame thing. It was on cups. It was on t-shirts. Like this guy was just an absolute culture phenomenon. And well, sometimes it does happen, boys and girls, that people get a little too big for their britches. And it's one of them situations where, and it's not a slight against the man's height in any way, shape, or form, because it's not even that. It's this Peter Dinklage decided to be an absolute douchebag to the rest of the little people, midget, whatever you want to be called, dwarf community, whatever you guys want to be called. I don't care. Because he decided to go out there and claim that the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, when it was announced out there from Disney, that he went out there and completely flat out and complained and cried and whined, saying that you should, that's disrespectful. I hope they don't have dwarfs in it. All this other nonsense, right? Basically, essentially pulling up the ladder behind him, because almost immediately Disney came out and put out a statement saying that they weren't going to do dwarfs in the movie. They were going to do magical creatures, even though it's from what we've seen so far, it sure as hell looks like they're going to be dwarfs. But at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where this is a guy out there trying to pull up the ladder behind him by a lot of other people, because he got a lot of complaints and a lot of pushback from other people in the little people community going, you're literally eliminating our jobs. You're literally making it where if we don't have dwarfs represented in movies and in television show, we will no longer have jobs. Well, boys and girls, it looks like Peter Dinklage looks like he is out of a little bit of a job as well, because his next release, the next movie that was supposed to come out, the Toxic Avenger adaptation, is told as being completely and totally unreleasable. Ladies and gentlemen, this movie is so bad that they don't even think that they can market it out there and sell it to anyone, and that's exactly what we have right here, because Peter Dinklage is a douchebag and has absolutely disrespected the community that he comes from, and has decided to make it to where other people out there aren't going to get work in the same ways that he did coming up. Because guess what? Peter Dinklage had no problem playing an elf, a dwarf represented character in some of his own movies before he ended up making his big hit. So literally, this is a guy that says, it's good for me, but not for thee. While we don't put up with that kind of hypocrisy, we don't put up with that kind of nonsense around here, and Peter Dinklage deserves to be shamed, boys and girls. And this is the latest example of that. We are going to shame it. We are going to rejoice in the fact that this absolute abomination and probably disrespectful event that was going to come from the Toxic Avenger, a cartoon that I absolutely loved as a kid, well, it's no longer come to fruition, boys and girls, and Peter Dinklage will not get his time on the screen. So we're going to check out this article from cosmicbook.news, getting all of the juicy details of why this movie has been canceled, what everybody's saying about it, and what the future of the movie, who is completely and totally complete, actually ends up holding. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe and or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we just crossed 800 on YouTube and Rumble as well, and I could not do that without every single one of you. And let us know in the comments section down below, are you glad to see that Peter Dinklage's Toxic Avengers movie will never see the light of the day, at least anytime soon? Let me know what you think about that down below. So from cosmicbook.news by our dear sweet Matt McGlorn, Peter Dinklage, Toxic Avenger shelved. Comic relaunch underway with original version. I wonder if these two things had anything to do with each other. No, I'm sure that's not in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure they're not connected in any way, shape, or form. No, that would never happen. Hollywood producer says the film is unreleasable. Lord Kaufman approves of the new comic. Well, I would hope Lord Kaufman would. You know, it's funny, you didn't hear anything come out there saying about how involved he was with this movie or how proud of he was. Oh, no. But he does approve of the new comic book series that is mysteriously getting announced right as we find out about the fact that the Toxic Avengers movie has been shelved. Weird how that works out that way. Weird, huh? Whatever happened to that Toxic Avenger movie starring Peter Dinklage, Elijah Wood, and Kevin Bacon? Well, apparently it's been shelved because it's been deemed unreleasable. Also, in what may or may not be related news, a comic book relaunch is underway with the original creator, Lord Kaufman, involved, which is based on the original Toxic Avenger movies and properties, not the Dinklage version. Oh, weird. You know, you'd think if this movie was an appropriate representation of what Lloyd had wanted from his character and what he'd seen as going forward with it, you'd almost think it would be like a perfect time to release a movie alongside of a brand new comic book, unless everybody saw the movie would be very upset by the fact that their character wasn't properly represented in the media. I'm sure that probably has nothing to do with it in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure this movie was fine, and it was a wonder representation and an accurate representation of the Toxic Avenger character. So what happened with the Peter Dinklage The Toxic Avengers movie? Last year saw the Toxic Avenger announced and a trailer even released from the writer-director Macon Blair. There were first look images and interviews, and the flick was even shown at various horror film festivals in September. So what happened? Well, there hasn't been any mention of the film in a while, so the World of Real asked a producer buddy about it. As you can see, some of the clips with Elijah Wood looking like an absolute monster. Honestly, doesn't look that bad as a villain, but hey, guess what? It didn't work out very well. So the producer filled in the site that the Toxic Avenger movie is unreleasable. The producer says the movie has no commercial prospects because it's too out there for theatrical release. So not only did with Toxic Avenger alone, not enough of a too much out there character for this kind of stuff to even get greenlit. No, what they turned it into is so out of the realm of norm, is so out of the Overton window, is so away from the pendulum that they were like, yeah, nobody's going to buy this. Nobody's going to pick this up from distribution. This is horrendous. I can't believe we ever even paid you guys money to produce this nonsense. If it ever does get picked up, the producer believes it will go straight to VOD or streaming, i.e. not making any revenue, not making any kind of actual thing out there. It's literally, we're just passing this off to you so we can write it off as our taxes, that we definitely technically made something off of this, but overall it was an entire loss. The movie does have 24 reviews posted and a 92% Rotten Tomatoes score. But the producer goes on to say, if it had great reviews, then maybe the forecast would be a little rosier. But there isn't much potential. It's too niche. Now, this is one of them situations where, too, obviously this was early previews. This was Access Media that was reviewing this movie and getting to see it early on. So, of course, to protect their own access, they generally don't give things too bad of a score. Now do they, boys and girls? We've seen this time and time again. The producer suggests, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it on Tubi a few years from now. Well, now, wouldn't that be interesting? Now, wouldn't that be a great thing? We should keep an eye on this. If there's ever an announcement where if we find out that this is on Tubi somewhere, we should totally do a watch along just to see how abysmally bad this actually was and see how unreleasable it truly was. Not safe enough to market. Filmmaker and producer Adam Manksky backed up the claim on X in June. This is factual. Manksky replied to another X user who said, I read somewhere distributors considered it wasn't safe enough to market, so no one has picked it up. And at this point, it honestly feels like it's on its way to becoming lost media or like having some unceremoniousous dump on Tubi in a few years. And the guy says, yeah, that's factual. He also added, this is what we know. I work in movie product licensing. We're officially told, as well as regarding it, to be honest. I only have heard good first-hand things from those who have seen it. So it's been a mystery to everyone why it hasn't been moving. Well, obviously somebody looked at it and said, nah, boys and girls, nah. So Via the Wrap just announced on Tuesday is the Toxic Avenger comic book from political cartoonist Matt Bors of Nib and two-time Pulitzer Prize finalist and artist Fred Harper. The info mentions the new comic builds on the character who spawned 5 films in the 1990s cartoon. And man, if you have never watched that first Toxic Avengers movie, oh my God, you have to go and see it. It is so abysmally bad that it is glorious. And there's Bob's in it. In this new Toxic Avenger comic, we are pulling from the movies as well as the 1991 cartoon and toy line. The Toxic Crusaders to tell an updated story for our polluted times. Tromneyville is the site of a mysterious train spill of toxic waste, which mutates the teenagers who come in contact with it. The town is placed under a harsh quarantine, and our titular hero, the bullied nerd Melvin Junko, is the only citizen stupid and or brave enough to fight back. Hell yeah. I think we all can understand the whole not wanting to enjoy lockdown and wanting to fight back and push back against that. Boy, if only there's something in recent mind history that actually would feel something like this and have us all be able to relate. Not that anything that I can think of. No government lockdowns have happened any time recently. No. The government would never do something like that. Bors revealed he pitched creator Lloyd Kaufman the new comic last year at Comic-Con, and Lloyd Kaufman is fully on board. If there was ever a superhuman hero for these toxic, miserable times, Toxie is the one. Toxie and the Trom team can't wait till you read No Experience, the art, stories, the Toxic Avenger comic book will explode in your brain, your soul, and your heart. Above all, remember, Toxie loves you, and so do I. Now, isn't that nice? Isn't that refreshing to hear about all of that kind of stuff? Absolutely love to see it. The article mentions about the Dinklage movie. A 23-film reboot of the franchise, starring Peter Dinklage, screened at festivals last year, but is yet to see a wider release. Why else would you mention that in the article unless this was meant to replace it? The comic gets released on October 9th from Ahoy Comics. And boys and girls, if nothing else, I would be willing to at least give the new comic a shot. The fact that Peter Dinklage and all of his nonsense and BS was involved with the movie, well, it was not something that I was definitely going to go out to see in theaters. And it looks like, fortunately enough for all of us, boys and girls, none of us will have to go out there and see this in theaters, because Toxic Avenger is an absolute great story. It's a great character. It's a great hero. It was a lot of fun for me as a cartoon for the kid, and I'm sure a lot of you out there that enjoyed the comics is something that you have a lot of fond memories of. And to see somebody like Peter Dinklage go out there and get involved in a project with all of these stupid and ridiculous things that he has said over the years is something that makes us very happy to hear that this is another abysmal failure for him and another black mark against an actor who should already have plenty for simply disrespecting his own community and trying to pull up the ladder. Boy, it's funny how all that tolerance and all of that kind of stuff's a one-way street, and it turns out Peter Dinklage, much like all of the rest of the Hollywood, is nothing more than a simple hypocrite. And ladies and gentlemen, the fact that we will never have to see Peter Dinklage as Toxic Avenger isn't anything more than maybe a Tubi free special to watch with ads makes me very, very happy, boys and girls. And Peter Dinklage, for all the idiocies you have said, this is exactly what you deserve. So Toxic Avenger, boys and girls, go check out the comic when it comes out in October, and thank the Lord that none of us should hopefully ever have to see the light of day for this absolute abomination that was going to be the Peter Dinklage version of Toxic Avenger.